Hello everyone. Tonight's a follow-on stream to the last stream I did, which was about Susan's grand jury testimony, and then what she said during the sentencing phase. And I've been concentrating mainly on what they said about Cielo Drive. And so tonight I'm going to read out what she said when Bugliosi was cross-examining her on it. What she said at the sentencing phase, basically. So and I'll do chapters in the description down below. It's Halloween as well, so I'm going to talk to the audience for a bit before I start. So happy Halloween, everyone. And what have you been doing, everyone? I'm drinking gin, but that's it. Look at this gin as well. Where's the bottle? No. It's called Lone Wolf. Crazy bottle. Look, the bottles look like a wood effect sort of thing. Yes. So has anyone been out or anything? It was raining here. As I was walking back from my friend's house, there were some kids out trick-or-treating, but it's raining terribly here, and we're going to have a terrible storm for the next 2 days here. It's going to be really windy and awful. But yeah, I didn't really see any Halloween events. I think there were a few things going on at pubs or whatever, but they mainly were done on Saturday, obviously, weren't they? Yeah, no one actually does anything on Halloween when it's in the middle of the week, do they? Yeah. We've got 18 people here. That's a good start. Right, yeah, and so like I say, I'm going to read out, the day Bugliosi examined her, which is cross-examined her, which was this day, the 11th. So yeah, this is the pictures of him walking in that day. Proceedings occur in open court. All defendants, counsel, and jurors present. All defendants, counsel, and jurors are present. You may continue, Mr. Bugliosi. And this is volume 79, starting from page 59 as well. Susan Denise Atkins, the witness on the stand at the time of the noon recess, resumed the stand and testified further as follows. Cross-examination continued. Sadie, I show you People's Exhibit 10. Do you recognise the man in that picture? Yes. But that is not what he looked like that night. How did he look that night? Weird. This is Stephen Parent here. That is what you all tell me. I didn't know who it was then. I'm not telling you anything, Susan. I'm asking you. Mr. Fitzgerald, for the record, can we have the number of the exhibit? Mr. Bugliosi, People's 10. The witness, I didn't know that it was who it was then. It just looked like a thing in a car. All right, let me show you another photograph. People's 16. Does that look like the car that the man was seated in behind the driver's seat? That night it looked like, Disneyland, those little things that drive along. Everything was strange to me that night. It was just a car. It could be the car, I don't know for sure, but there was a man in the car, and Tex. But he didn't just like any man that I had seen, but he didn't look like any man that I had seen before. He had a head and arms and stuff like that, I imagine. All I saw was him in that position, and he didn't even look like that night. Look like that night. What did he look like? What did he look like? You said that it didn't look like any man you had ever seen before. What did it look like? Just something stretched out. Well, you saw him after he was already dead. I saw him with his head back. You saw Tex shoot the man. I heard the shot. And you saw the man inside the car. Yeah. Now this car, that the man was in. Did you see that car strike any fence in the Tate driveway? No. Did you hear the car striking any fences in the Tate driveway? No. Did you text Katie and Linda enter the Tate residence at the same time? Yeah, Tex was in there first. Tex went in the window first. And then the three of you girls entered afterwards. Yeah. And none of you remained outside. Is that correct? Linda did for about 30 seconds, I would say, in time. But she came in right afterwards. So she did not stay outside. Is that correct? Uh-huh. She was in and out. 47 of the grand jury transcript. Will you please read lines 2 through 21 to yourself? Have you read those lines to yourself? Yes. At the grand jury, Sadie, did you give these answers to these questions? Question, by myself. Susan, I show you grand jury exhibit number 8 for identification. Does this appear to be a photograph of the home where Tex and you other three girls went? Yes. I direct your attention to a door. Does this appear to be the front door that you have been referring to in your testimony? Yes. To the right of the front door, I direct your attention to what appears to be an open window. Is this the window through which Tate went? Yes, it is. After he went through the window, then he opened the front door, you say? Yes. Did all of you girls enter at that time? Only 2 of us entered. 1 stayed outside. Who stayed outside? Linda Kasabian. Did you give those answers to those questions? Yes, Mr. Bugliosi. May I clarify something? You didn't ask me how long she stayed outside at the grand jury. She did not stay outside the whole time, and I never said at the grand jury that she did. Now, when you and Tex and Katie came back to Johnny Schwartz's car at the bottom of the hill after the murders, was Linda already inside Johnny Schwartz's car? Yes. So Linda was inside Johnny Schwartz's car at the bottom of the hill before the time you and Tex and Sadie ever reached the car. Is that correct? That's correct. After he returned from the Tate murders, did you tell Mr. Manson what happened? No, not right away. Did you ever tell Mr. Manson what had happened? I didn't think I had to. I didn't tell him in words. He knew. To my mind, he knew. Did he ever ask you? No. And you never told him? No. No, you were with him between the time of the murders, the 9th and the 10th, 1969, up until the time that you and he and other members of the family were arrested at Barker Ranch in Inyo County. Is that correct? That's correct. And that was in December of 1969. Is that correct? That's correct. And during that period of time, you saw Mr. Manson many, many times. That's correct. And not once did you tell him about the Tate murders. I didn't think I had to. Did you tell anyone in the family about the Tate murders? I may have mentioned it. Pardon? I may have mentioned it. Did you mention it to Ruth Morehouse in September of 69 at Myers Ranch, in the kitchen at Myers Ranch, in the kitchen at Myers Ranch? That's repeated 3 times for some reason. We were talking about everything that was going on in the city. I don't remember exactly what I said to her. But did you? I mentioned to her that a lot of people on Sunset Boulevard, when I was down and around Sunset, they just seemed to come to me from every direction, everyone I would meet. One young man I met was a psychiatrist who was called into... We don't want to go off too much on a tangent, Sadie. That's approximately what we're talking about. Did you tell Ruth Morehouse about these people who were murdered inside the Tate residence? No, just the people who had come to me down on Sunset Boulevard and would talk to me about the Tate murders, and that is what I was telling her. Well, did you tell anyone in the family about the Tate murders? Leslie. Other than those of you who were involved in the Tate and LaBianca murders, did you tell anybody else about the Tate murders or the LaBianca murders? No, and I didn't even tell Leslie very much. Now, you did tell Ronnie Howard and Virginia Graham at Sybil Brand, is that correct? That's correct. Now, if you told outsiders like Ronnie Howard and Virginia Graham, how come you didn't tell members of your own family, Sadie? Nothing needed to be said. What I did was what I did with those people, and that is what I did. Just one of those things. 7 dead bodies. No big thing. 7 dead bodies are no big thing, right, Sadie? Are they? With millions of people all over the world that are having napalm dropped on them in the name of your justice, is that a big thing? It doesn't seem to me to be a big thing to you at all. If you all believe it's right, and what I believed was right. So killing 8 people is just business as usual, no big deal. Is that right, Sadie? It wasn't at the time, it was just there to do. On the second night, do you know who got Johnny Schwartz's car? No, I was just there. Of course, Charlie did not go along the second night, did he, Sadie? No, he was in Devil's Canyon for all I know. You mean Charlie was not knocking on the window of the car trying to get in the car when you left? No. Was there any room for Charlie if he wanted to go along? No, the car was pretty full. There was only room for 6 of you, no room for Charlie. If he was there, which he wasn't, there would have been room, but he was not there. The car was crowded. 3 people in the front, 3 people in the back. It's a full car. Were you under the influence, Sadie, of LSD at the Tate residence? Yes. Now, because you were under the influence of LSD at the Tate residence, are the details a little hazy and foggy in your mind? Direct and absolute details, yeah. A lot of them are. Everything that night was really weird and far out. People looked strange. So the details, they didn't even look like people. So the details... Well, when the blood was coming out of their bodies, when you were stabbing them, blood was spurting out of their bodies, right? I didn't relate to it as blood. I didn't relate to Sharon Tate as being anything but a still mannequin. That's what she looked like. And she sounded like an IBM machine. You have never heard a still mannequin talk, have you, Sadie? No, sir, but it just looked like... She just looked to me like a still mannequin. And the words that came out of her mouth didn't make any sense to me. I got tired of hearing it. Did it make any sense that Sharon was pregnant and she wanted to live to have her baby? Didn't that make any sense to you? Not at the time. She kept begging and pleading and begging and pleading and begging and pleading, and I got sick of listening to her, so I stabbed her. And the more she screamed, the more you stabbed, eh, Sadie? She didn't really scream. She begged. Yes, so? And you looked at her and you said, "Look, bitch, I have no mercy for you." Isn't that right, Sadie? That's right. That is what I said then. Is it true, then, that because you were under the influence of LSD, the details are somewhat foggy and hazy in your mind? There's a lot of things that are foggy and hazy, Vince. It's like everything was going so fast, moving very, very fast and very rapid, you know. Well, was part of the fogginess or haziness in your mind traceable to the fact you were under the influence of LSD? I don't understand your question. Well, was the fact that you were under the influence of LSD, do you think that caused things to be somewhat foggy and hazy in your mind? How? Now? No, at the time of the murders. At the time of the murders, everything was crystal clear to me at the time of the murders, as you call them. So, in other words, you were very, very well aware of everything that you were doing, right? Yes, it was just there to do, and I did it. And you knew exactly what you were doing, right? I knew the motions that I was going through were the motions that I was going through. At the time, to place words on what I was doing, or to place a thought onto what I was doing, no, I can honestly say I didn't know what I was doing in your world. I just knew what I was doing because I was doing it, and there was nothing to be said to me about it in my own mind. Now, you remember, of course, I think you testified yesterday that you knew exactly what Jay Sebring was wearing. Is that correct? The clothing? I think. You can answer that yes or no, Sadie. That is no big question. I don't understand your question. Do you recall now, looking back, what Jay Sebring was wearing? I recall when I saw the picture, yes, that is what he was wearing. You recall that he had black hair and that he had dark hair? And his approximate height and weight? Yes. And that all came from what I saw on television at the time. You know what he looked like to me at the time? He looked like a samurai warrior. You remember what the front door of the residence looks like? A Dutch door? Yes, it looked like the house was set off in Holland. And you remember there was a narrow hallway at the Tate residence? Yes, if it was a hallway. And that when you entered the front door of the Tate residence, the living room is to the left and the kitchen is to the right. Do you remember all those things? I remember all those things through the help of pictures, photographs, a diagram that you yourself showed me. And that is how I remember all those things. If I had never seen a picture or a diagram, I don't think I could relate any of it to you. It was a big room. Do you remember the exact position that Joe Sebring was in relation to Sharon Tate's body? The only thing that I can recall is that he was laying close to her. And when I walked out, I threw a towel back, and I didn't even see where it landed. I mean, when you first entered Sharon's bedroom, you say Sharon was lying down in bed and Jay was seated at the end of the bed, and you testified to one arm being over Sharon's legs or something like that. Yes, he seemed to be leaning over on one arm. You remember everything that happened, don't you, Sadie? Pretty much everything. In fact, you weren't under the influence of LSD at all, were you, Sadie? Yes, I was. Yes, I was. Were you under the influence of LSD the second night? Yes, I was. When did you ingest the LSD? Which time? The second night. I believe it was as the sun was going down. Early evening, late afternoon, somewhere around in that time. The exact time, hour, I don't know, but it was an hour and a half, 2 hours before I got in the car. So you were still on a trip at the time of the LaBianca murders. Right. Do you consider LSD a drug? No, I consider it to be what it is. Or do you call it a drug at all? No, I call it acid. What is a drug to you? A drug, yes. The word doesn't relate to me, but through the meaning that I have been taught, it can be something harmful to the body or can be helpful to the body. Like aspirin is a drug, morphine is a drug, heroin is a drug. These are all words that I relate to the word drug. I do not relate the word acid to drug. Do you remember telling me, Sadie, on the evening of December the 4th, 1969, that on both the nights of the Tate and LaBianca murders, you were not under the influence of anything? Do you remember telling me that, Sadie? Sure, I remember telling you that. Were you lying to me, Sadie? At the time that I told you that, I didn't want to believe I was on acid, so I told you I wasn't. You also told me that no one else was on acid or any type of drug on both nights, didn't you, Sadie? Yes. Right. I'm going to take a break for a minute there. How long does that take? About 20 minutes. Right, so yeah, basically. she sticks to saying they were on drugs, and when he tries to get her to say that she wasn't on drugs, that she's lying about being on drugs, that didn't really work, did it? I think they were, probably. What, you're going out tonight? You're probably going to hit the Vegas Strip, really? Yeah. Like, you don't believe she was on acid? Because that was what she said. She said she was on acid, and Linda said she had given Tex STP, which is acid and speed, isn't it? Can't remember. I only bloody read it out last night, but she said, yeah, I don't know. I think she said Linda gave her acid, or they just had a stash of acid that they all used to just go and get acid from, didn't they? Yeah. 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 Well, this is what she's saying. She said at the penalty phase bit that I read out yesterday. She said, yeah, that she was on acid, and that Linda gave. Tex said that Linda had given she said Linda had given Tex STP, which is the acid and speed mixed in it. Yeah, well, this is it. She says she never said anything to Charlie when she got back. Also, she says that she just went and passed out as well, because there's other accounts that says she went and had sex with someone as soon as she got back. But apparently, no, she says in court she said she just went back and passed out. And she didn't say anything to Charlie. But I reckon she's probably fucking lying about that. I think, of course, she did say something to Charlie about it. She's lying just trying to not get him for conspiracy, isn't she? Yeah. Yeah, and they were on speed. There's long been said, hasn't it, yeah, that they were taking speed. Yeah. But they could have taken acid as well, couldn't they? Easily. Well, it depends how tolerant you are to acid as well. They took a lot of acid, didn't they? And it's not a delirium. Acid is not a delirium. It's psychedelic. The stuff like belladonna and all that sort of thing is, the actual... the ones that make you feel like you're not in the same place and all shit like that. They're the ones that give you the out-of-body trip. LSD is not a delirium. I think, yeah, you've got that. You've got LSD mixed up with heavier stuff like Jimson weed and that. LSD is not that, actually, that, it wouldn't impair you that much. Yeah, but she was totally told what to say, wasn't she? She was instructed on what to say, just like Susan was for a grand jury testimony. Linda just said whatever her lawyer told her to say. Oh, God. I don't want to watch that now. I don't want to watch that. Yeah. Cool, yeah, and I'll read out a bit of the rest of this, because I don't think there's much more about Cielo, but they talk more about Bobby, and she says stuff about Bobby. So I'll read that out. I'll read right up to what Bugliosi says to her. He melted into the floor on acid. Yeah, I never got intense visuals when I took acid. Out of all the hallucinogens I took, yeah, it didn't really have much effect on me. Can't be that sensitive to it. On the second night, when Linda, you and Clem went to the 4th or 5th floor of the apartment out in Venice, Linda wanted you and Clem to help her kill this man whom she called a pig. Is that correct? She didn't say nothing about killing him. She just said there was a pig that lived upstairs and had some money, and she was going to go up and see him. And if when she knocked on the door, if she felt that we could come in, to come in. And Linda had previously given Clem a gun from the car that was in the glove compartment and told Clem to carry it. And she told us to stand behind like a hallway, as the hallway turns to the left or the right. I forget which way it turns. She told us to wait out of sight in case he opened the door and he wouldn't see us. And then she said she was going back to ask him if her friends could come in. Did Linda have a knife on her? I don't know. Did you see a knife on her? I don't remember seeing one on her. Yesterday, just before we finished, Sadie, I was asking you why these murders were committed. Do you recall my asking you that at the end of yesterday's session? Aha, yes. Let me ask you again because the questions and answers were terminated. Why were these murders committed? It seemed like a good idea at the time. It happened and it was right. My brother was in jail for something that I did. It would have worked. It would have worked had I not talked to Ronnie Howard and Virginia Graham. Bobby would be free if you look at it. I direct your attention to Sadie. I direct your attention, Sadie, to this letter here. This is your handwriting, is that correct? Yes. For the record, it is Court Special Exhibit 8, and I specifically direct your attention to page 1 of the letter. This is the letter that you wrote to Ronnie Howard in mid-December of 1969 at Sybil Brand. Is that correct? That is correct. And you're talking in the first paragraph about the murders. Is that correct? Not the details of the murders, but you are talking about why you were in custody and things like that. Yes. Now, at the end of this first paragraph, in your own handwriting, don't you tell Ronnie Howard, yes, strike that. There was a so-called motive behind all this. It was to instill fear into the pigs and to bring on Judgment Day, which is here now for all. Did you write that? Sure. And it is the truth. What did you mean by that? It is the truth. In other words, that was the reason for these. It was part of it. In other words, that was the reason for these murders. It was part of it in my head. I saw that from the reaction down on Sunset Boulevard and all the people that I talked to, that there was a lot of fear in LA. I watched the fear on the news that these murders had caused. What motivated me was getting my brother free. Do you see anything in here, in this letter? And I will give it to you if you want to look at it. Do you see anything in here about freeing Bobby Beausoleil? No, neither do you. That's right, I don't. I never mentioned Bobby Beausoleil to Ronnie Howard or Virginia Graham. How come the only thing you mentioned, Sadie, was that these murders were to instill fear into the pigs and bring on Judgment Day for all? Isn't Judgment Day here now? Oh, come on, that is the only thing. Oh, come, that is the only thing you told Ronnie Howard about, Sadie. That's all I wanted to tell her. I only told her what I wanted her to know. If you had gone back before, yes, I wanted the whole world to know about about Charlie. To me, in my head, he was God. Yes, he was God. He represented a God to me that was so beautiful that I'd do anything for him. And he has a brother, and his brother was named Bobby. And you would even commit murder for him, right, Sadie? Mr. Canarak says, Your Honour, she should be allowed to finish. Mr. Bugliosi is interrupting her. Mr. Bugliosi, Mr. Canarak is interrupting me, and I asked the court to admonish Mr. Canarak not to interrupt me. Mr. Canarak, he is not letting her finish her answer, Your Honour. The court, that will be enough, Mr. Canarak. Mr. Bugliosi, you would do anything for him. I would do anything for God. Even commit murder, I'd do anything for God. Even commit murder, I would do anything for the God that I believed in, yes, including murder. That's right, if I believed it was right. And God, you all have been killing people all over the world in the name of Jesus Christ. And the man that you all got up there, you say he has died for your sins, but you're also stuck on your sins and misery that without... And you murdered 5 people at the Tate residence for your God Manson, didn't you? I murdered them for my God Bobby Beausoleil. Oh, you have 2 gods. There is only one God, and God is in all. Bobby was up on death row. Mr. Shin. Your Honour, Mr. Bugliosi is shouting at the witness, Your Honour. The court. He's not shouting. Mr. Shin. I heard a loud voice, Your Honour. Mr. Bugliosi. I am sorry. I will try to keep my voice down, Mr. Shin. The witness. What motivated me? Bobby was picked up for a murder that I did. You have to answer the questions, Susan. And there is no questions pending, okay? The witness. Okay, Mr. Bugliosi. We have got to be very legal about this. There are certain rules we have to follow. Yes, it has been a long time, and your rules don't make no sense. Okay. To me. Now, when I talked to you on the night of December the 4th, 1969, isn't it true that you told me that the reason for these murders was the whole thing was done to instill fear in the establishment and cause paranoia, and also to show black men how to take over the white man? Did you tell me that, Sadie? Yes. You didn't tell me anything about Bobby Beausoleil, did you? No, sir, you never asked me nothing about Bobby Beausoleil. You didn't volunteer it either, did you, Sadie? No. This Virginia Graham that you spoke to at Sybil Brand, it wasn't the Virginia Graham that was here. That was a different Virginia. This was a different Virginia Graham. I looked at her when you all brought me down to be identified by her, and it was not the Virginia Graham that I talked to in jail. The Virginia Graham you spoke to at the jail, did you tell her, Sadie, that after the Tate murders, within minutes, within a half hour afterwards, you were tired, but you felt relieved because you knew that Helter Skelter had begun? Didn't you tell her that? I believe I told her I felt relieved. I felt like something else. Because Helter Skelter had begun. Is that right, Sadie? Let's tell the truth. You're on the witness stand. Yeah, I'm aware of where I'm sitting right now. I could have said that to you. I don't recall saying that to her, but you could have. Sure, I could have. I could have told her a lot of things that you never even heard about. Well, spare me, okay, Sadie? Okay. And you told Ronnie Howard and Virginia Graham that Charles Manson ordered these murders, didn't you? Sure. Now, when you spoke to Ronnie Howard and Virginia Graham, you didn't say anything at all about Linda Kasabian, did you? No, I made up the story as I made it up. I wanted to present to her and make her as much afraid of me as I was of her. Why didn't you tell Ronnie Howard and Virginia Graham about Linda Kasabian? I mentioned Linda. Why didn't you mention to Virginia Graham and Ronnie Howard that Linda Kasabian was behind these murders? How come, Sadie? Because I didn't. You didn't because you didn't, and that is because you didn't, right? Correct. Were you trying to protect Linda? No, I was making up my story. Are you telling me the truth on the witness stand now, Sadie? Absolutely. Now you testified, I think this morning, Sadie, that at the grand jury you lied, right? At the grand jury I said At the grand jury I said what I said because that is what I said, and it was true and real to me then. But you have always wanted to tell the truth about these murders, haven't you? That's right, and that's what I am here for right now. You always wanted to tell the truth, haven't you, Sadie? That's correct. Directing your attention again, Sadie, to this letter, page 4 of the letter at the top. This is the one to Ronnie Howard at Sybil Brand. If you always wanted to tell the truth about these murders, Sadie, how come you told Ronnie Howard? When I first heard you were the informer, I wanted to slit your throat. How come you told her that, Sadie? Can you read the next line? Mr. Bugliosi. Then I snapped that I was the real informer. The witness. That's correct. By Mr. Bugliosi. But how come you wanted to slit Ronnie Howard's throat if you always wanted to tell the truth? It has to do with the second line. And then I snapped. I wanted to slit my own throat because I snitched. Sadie, no one has called you a liar, have they, Sadie? They've called you a snitch. Isn't that right, Sadie? No one called me a snitch. You just got through saying you snitched. That's what I said. No one has called me a snitch. There's a big difference between snitching and lying. Isn't that right, Sadie? Snitching and lying can be one and the same thing. It depends on what the snitch says. If the snitch tells the truth, they tell the truth. And that is what you got that mad dog out in the streets for. Immunity. You saw the posters, Sadie Glutz is a snitch. I haven't seen them. You heard about it. I heard about it. You haven't seen any posters saying Sadie Glutz was a liar, have you? No, I have never told you I lied before either. Told Mr. Caballero that. Now, before you testified at the grand jury, did Mr. Caballero advise you of your constitutional rights? I believe so. And did you freely give up your right to remain silent? Mr. Canarak, I object to that as calling for a conclusion, Your Honour. The court overruled. Mr. Canarak, whether she freely did or not. The court overruled. Mr. Bugliosi, did you freely give up your right to remain silent? I feel I was pushed into it. Your answer is you did not freely give up your right to remain silent. I feel I was pushed into it. Did you freely testify before the grand jury? I feel I was pushed into it. At the grand jury, did you give these answers to these questions? Did your attorney, Mr. Caballero, explain to you your constitutional rights? Yes, he did. Are you freely giving up your right to remain silent? Yes, I am. And are you freely willing to testify before the grand jury? Yes. Now, do you understand that if you do testify, you may incriminate yourself? Yes, I know that. And do you understand what the word incriminate means? Yes, I do. Are you still willing to testify, knowing that you are not being given immunity and you are not being freed of any of the charges that you may incriminate yourself about? I understand that, and my life doesn't mean that much to me. I just want to see what is taken care of. Did you give those answers to those questions? Yep. Did you promise to testify to the complete truth at the grand jury, Sadie? The truth that was reality to me at the time. Did you give these answers to these questions at the grand jury? Now, these folks who are seated to Mr. Stovitz's and my left at the right behind me are the members of the Los Angeles County Grand Jury. Do you understand that? Yes. These folks want you to tell them what happened, Susan, and they want you to be completely truthful with them. Do you promise to do that? Yes. Did you give those answers to those questions? Yep. And you snitched at the grand jury. You didn't lie, did you, Sadie? I lied. Sadie, you testified Tuesday and Wednesday, I believe, that it was Linda Kasabian who made the decision to go to the Tate residence. And also, I believe you said it was her decision to go to Harold True's place. Is that correct? That is correct. Now, Tuesday was the first time that you had ever told anyone this. Isn't that true, Sadie? That is correct. Now, Sadie, these murders occurred on August the 9th and 10th, 1969, right? That is what you tell me. And you are telling everyone in the courtroom and this jury that the judge and that judge that yesterday was the first time you told anyone that Linda was behind these murders. Mr. Canarak, Your Honour, I object. This is not time for argument to the jury. Overruled. Mr. Canarak, it's an argument. The court, sit down, Mr. Canarak. You're out of order. Mr. Bugliosi, is that right, Sadie? It is the first time I have told this jury and this courtroom. That is correct. Wait a minute. You said it was the first time you told anyone. Let's not go back on our word now, Sadie. Anyone pertaining to who? When I say anyone, I'm talking about human beings. I ain't told nobody the truth until I was sitting right here, right now. I got up in front of the jury one time, and you all took me away. And I've been trying to tell all the time. Between August 9th, 1969 and February 9th and 10th, 1971. How come you never told anyone that Linda was behind these murders? How come? Because I didn't. It's that simple. Now, you're sure that all you did up there in Frisco was do topless work? San Francisco? Yes. I did all kinds of crazy things. Did you do any comedian work? No. I want to verify that. You've got it verified. Very good. Now, without going over all your testimony at the grand jury, Sadie, we will try to make this as short and sweet as possible. Basically, at the grand jury, Los Angeles County Grand Jury, December the 5th, 1969, you testified that it was Charles Manson who sent you, Tex, Katie, and Linda out to commit the murders at the Tate residence. That's true, isn't it, Sadie? And this is what you testified to. That is what I testified to. And you further testified the very next night, Charles Manson told you, Tex, Katie, Linda, Leslie, and Clem, that you were going to go out again and do the very same thing that you had done the first night. Is that correct? Is that what you testified to? That is what I testified to. And you testified on the second night Mr. Manson went along with the group. Is that correct? That is what I testified. And that he was the driver of the car as you drove off Spahn Ranch. And that's what I testified to. And you testified further, eventually, Mr. Manson and the rest of you stopped in front of Harold True's house and Manson got out of the car alone. Is that correct? That is what I testified to. And you testified to the grand jury that when he returned to the car, he had a woman's wallet with him. Is that correct, Sadie? That is what I testified to. And then he instructed Tex, Katie, and Leslie to get out of the car. Is that correct? That is what I testified to. He told Tex, Katie, and Leslie that he tied the people up, and he told Tex, Katie, and Leslie to go into the home and not to cause fear and panic as they had the previous night. Is that correct? That is what I testified to. And you testified that Tex, Katie, and Leslie walked away from the car. Is that correct? That is what I testified to. And you and Larry and Linda and Clem drove off, correct? And that is what I said. Who the fuck's Larry? Sorry. And you testified at the grand jury that eventually you stopped at a gasoline station and Manson gave Linda the woman's wallet. Is that correct? That is what I testified to. Did Charlie tell Linda what to do with the wallet? Charlie wasn't there. Now, at the grand jury, Sadie, you testified that after Linda left and the wallet at the gasoline station, you fell asleep in the car, and when you woke up, you were back at Spahn Ranch. Is that right? That is what I testified to. Now, why don't you testify at the grand jury about the Venice incident? Nobody asked me, and I did not want to bring it up in my story. I don't believe to Virginia Graham and Ronnie Howard. There is a lot of things in that grand jury that I don't even recall that I testified to. You say no one asked you, Sadie. Not that I can recall, might have. Because remember, now at the beginning, you said you were going to testify to the complete truth at the grand jury, right? That's what I said at the grand jury. And you're going to try and get me? Are you going to try and get me for perjury? No, I wouldn't think of it. You have already been convicted of 7 counts of murder. That's right. So why am I going to fool around with a perjury charge? I don't know. Why are you going through all of those charges? Now, directing your attention to page 98 of the grand jury transcript, Sadie, glancing at the transcript that you testified, did Charlie give Linda Kasabian the woman's wallet and tell her to leave it in the bathroom, hoping someone would pick it up? Is that correct? That is what it says. And use a credit card. Is that correct? That is what it says. Or do you recall? Read lines 24 to 26 to yourself on page 98 and lines 1 through 5 to yourself on page 99. Witness complies. Have you read those lines to yourself, Sadie? Yep. Now, the context in which you gave those answers to those questions is that Charlie had given Linda the wallet to hide in the restroom, and you said Linda did it. That is what it says on the paper. Right, and then I asked you, what is the next thing that happened after Linda left the wallet in the restroom? What is the next thing that happened? And we drove back around for a long time and I went back to sleep. It wasn't like I was asleep. It was like I was drugged. I felt very heavily drugged. I was not on drugs at the time. I just felt like that. Like I'd been shot with morphine or something. Or fell asleep and I woke up back at the ranch. Did you give that answer to that question? Sure did. What happened to Venice? Nothing was ever said about it. Well, I asked you at the grand jury, didn't I, Sadie, what happened after Linda left the wallet off? I left it out. Any reason for that? I didn't see any reason to say anything about it. It's all so simple. I believe you testified, Sadie, that you want to take full responsibility for the Gary Hinman murder because you murdered Gary, not Bobby Bosley. Is that correct? I don't think I said I wanted to take full responsibility. I'm sorry, I don't remember saying that. Weren't your words to that effect that you wanted to clear Bobby because Bobby was innocent? Did you testify that? I came up here to tell you the truth. Right, that I did kill Gary Hinman, in fact without malice aforethought. That is a legal term now, Sadie. It's one you've all been using on me. Didn't you testify, Sadie, correct me if I'm wrong, didn't you testify that you are a woman and you murdered Gary Hinman and Bobby Bosley is innocent and you want to free Bobby? Didn't you testify that? Mr. Canarak. Your Honour, I must object on the grounds Mr. Bosley is using the word murder in the legal sense. The court overruled. Mr. Canarak. The physical act is what she testified to, Your Honour. The court. The objection is overruled. You may answer the question. The witness. Would you repeat your question? Mr. Bugliosi. Haven't you testified within the last couple of days that you were the one that killed or murdered Gary Hinman, not Bobby Bosley? And you didn't want Bobby Bosley to suffer or be punished for something that you did. Didn't you testify that? Yep. When you found out that Bobby Bosley had been arrested for the Hinman murder, did you feel pretty bad about it? Yes. And were you willing to do anything to free Bobby? Yes, because Bobby was your love. Bobby was my brother. You were even willing to give up your life for Bobby to free him. Isn't that true, Sadie? Yep, without going to the police. Well, that is the next question now, Sadie. Yeah, I know. If you felt so bad about Bobby being arrested for the Hinman murder, because actually you had committed it, and if you were willing to do anything for Bobby, even give up your life for him instead of killing these 5 poor Tate victims, why didn't you simply turn yourself in to the police and tell them I had murdered Gary Hinman? Because I didn't see no wrong in what I did by killing Gary Hinman. When I say I felt bad because Bobby was in jail and I was going to take a beef for me. Right, and now you wanted to free him, right? The only way I knew how, other than going to the police, because I felt no guilt for what I did. Apart from guilt to free Bobby, why didn't you go to the police and say, look, officers, you got the wrong man. I'm the person who killed Gary Hinman. Why did you have to go up and kill 5 people? Because that is what I did. And you did it because you did it. That's right. And that's why you did it. It is so simple. It happened. I'm here. It's a happening. You all have judged me. It's a happening. Sure, okay, the earthquake was a happening. Mr. Bugliosi. Sadie, I enjoyed talking to you. No further questions. Anything further, gentlemen? Mr. Shin. I have some redirect, Your Honour. I'm not going to read that out now. Right, so that's it. So that was all I was going to read out for tonight. Yeah, that's it. You can't establish it. Well, she's saying, because, like, I obviously want to, I've always believed that the drug deal with Linda and Tex was at least a big part of the motive for CLA Drive. So I want to pounce on the fact she mentions Linda, but she lies so much as well. She says, because her and Leslie both testified in the penalty phase that Charles Manson wasn't with them at the beginning of the La Biancas. And that's just bollocks, isn't it? Everyone knows that's bollocks. Charlie went in and tied them up. He admitted that. Even he admitted that. So it's like she lies about so much. And also, like I said in last night's thing, no one's account explains how Jay and Sharon's blood ended up outside. None of the accounts explain that. All the accounts that they give make out that Sharon and Jay never left the living room. And at the grand jury testimony, Susan says that Abigail Folger got stabbed in the living room. Yeah, they didn't find Abigail Folger's blood in the living room, apparently. So she wasn't stabbed in the living room, you know. She was just making shit up. And she recants, in the other bits I'm going to read out, there is a bit where she totally recants her grand jury testimony, says it was all lies. She's already said it because he's saying that, she's saying it in what we've just read out. She's saying she's lied about the grand jury. Yeah, the defecating in the stairway thing. I've heard that about the, when they were at the apartment. Yeah, don't know if it's true. But yeah, but it's supposed to be when they were at the apartment, isn't it? Going to go and kill them. Who's Larry? Where did Larry come from? Suddenly Larry gets mentioned. Who the fuck's Larry? No, another new guy. As if this case isn't complicated enough. Hmm. That's it. Well, that's what they've been hanging around with bikers, if not for speed. Plus, Frykowski and Roman were importing English farmer speed. Which we just know dangerous drugs is all it says on that FBI report. But yeah, everyone's assuming speed. And everyone was doing loads of speed. In Cass's biography, it talks about how they were all on speed. The Rolling Stones were all on speed, so fucking, of course, all the musicians were doing it, weren't they, Everyone was on it. Yeah, it was found, the knife at Cielo Drive, it was found down the side of the sofa, wasn't it, I think? Someone, which suggests that they actually were sat down on the sofa, doesn't it, as well? That's the other weird thing about that. So they weren't just like walking around. It's like they had been allowed in and sat down. Yeah, Bugliosi should have asked her in court to recreate the pooing in the stairway episode. There is actually crazy talking about Susan Atkins and pooing in the actual trial. There's a bit where she gets ill and a doctor actually has to sit there and testify about giving her enemas. And she has to come in herself and testify about being given enemas because she was so constipated it was causing her extreme pain. They thought she might have an ovarian cyst and examined her for that, but it turned out she was just really, really constipated. And they had to give her enemas. And that's actually in the transcripts. There's like a whole fucking day it took them to talk about the fact Susan was too ill to sit in court. Yeah. Yeah, and losing the knife is interesting as well. And Linda had to give her another knife as well, which is more evidence Linda was in the house, isn't it? Because she had to come into the house to give her the knife. Yeah. Yeah, well, the more I look at this case, because there's people that believe there was another guy besides Tex at Sharon's that night. Yeah, I kept looking. The more I look at this case, the more I think I'm not sure if it was just the Manson family that did all these murders. Basically, did they just take responsibility because they were too scared, or were they so off their faces they were fucking actually convinced that they had done it? Someone managed to convince them that they had done it, and they didn't really do it. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, with friends like that, who needs enemies? Yeah. Yeah, well, another reason for completing theories. Because she didn't really want to stab anyone, I don't think. I don't think that she was actually... I think she was all mouth. I think she was a chicken when it came to it, and so she deliberately fucking lost her knife. And Linda handed her another knife. Because they all had to take part in the crime to have got, some blood on their hands, basically, so that they all couldn't, turn on each other. So they all had to be, they all had to keep it quiet because they were all involved. I think that's why Linda gave her the other knife. I think Susan really didn't want to stab anyone. And she was actually telling the truth during the grand jury testimony when she said, when Tate ordered me to kill Sharon, I couldn't do it. And so she had to create a distraction because she couldn't kill Sharon. But then, I had not looked at the wounds on Sharon's back as well. I didn't realise how many wounds there were on her back. But that is consistent with them running up behind her and tackling her from behind as she's running away, isn't it? Because there's those two patches of blood by the door. But there was another thing I wanted to show. I wanted to show some photos because there's a photo that gives a better... Yeah, let me look for that for a second. That gives you a better perspective on where the blood is because you can see where the pillar is. So this shows you the gate. Unfortunately, it's right where the watermark is property of cielodrive.com photo archives, but you can see what they mean by the embankment, by the gate, how they climbed up the embankment to climb over the fence, because it's the fence gets lower there, basically. And there's the other picture I wanted to show you. Oh, yeah, just all this stuff with the phone lines. It's interesting, isn't it? Stephen Parent's car. The gun, apparently. Yeah, this is the one, because you can see the well, there's the window that they're supposed to have climbed in. We can see the screen on the floor next to it, and you can see the pillar. And where's the door? You can see where the door is, because the window that they climbed in was right next to the front door. So you can see the red pillar, and you can see the bush from a distance where Sharon's blood was found. The bush to the what? That would be the to the right of the path, wouldn't it? I think, but it's up my left and your left. But yeah, you can see in that picture. Gives you a better idea of where the blood is, doesn't it? Yeah. Sorry, just looking at the chat for a second. Yeah, I'm surprised he didn't have a gun. Yeah, considering the amount of drugs he was dealing and how many people he had pissed off. Apparently, even Frank Sinatra was out for him and all this sort of shit. Yeah, he had pissed off a lot of people. I think that's the entire reason why these murders happened, was because they were dealing drugs. That's why this really happened. That's what I believe. I think it was everything to do with the fact that Fry and Jay were drug dealers. And I really believe it was because they mistreated Linda, and they had to get money, and that was all Charlie ordered Tex to do, was go out and get the money that he owed. Yeah, that's it. I can't understand why they did the thing with the towel as well, unless when they went back to stage the crime scene, maybe Charlie Manson put the towel over his face and said, you've got to say there was a towel over his face because we put a towel over his face or whatever. Yeah. What do you mean? No, Linda was complicit. That's what I'm saying. Linda was the one who fucking said, let's go to Cielo Drive, because they ripped me off for that MDA. So they all went on Linda's say. I'm not even, because I used to think it was Tex, but I don't think it was even Tex now. I think it was entirely Linda, and bloody Tex was just running around doing whatever Linda said by this point. What done with my gin? Can't find it now. Oh, here it is. Yeah, I don't know. I've never heard anything about that. Don't know. And I still have never managed to find this supposed newspaper article where Dennis Hopper says that quote about the sodomy and all that sort of stuff. They had I've seen it quoted in several books, but never actually been able to find the article. That they had got to masochism or whatever the fuck the quote is from him. I've never actually been able to find that article, or seen footage, or heard any real quote from Dennis Hopper about any of this. Yeah. Well, what I just read out last night, right? Fucking Linda. Susan mentions Linda loads in the penalty phase. Yeah. What I just read last night. Well, not last night, last stream. So, Sunday night. Linda, no, fucking Susan literally says during the penalty phase it was Linda's idea to do it. Yeah, she went and stole money from her husband, didn't she? That's where she got the money from. So she didn't really just hand it over to Charlie, yeah. Yeah. Yeah, but he would say that, wouldn't he? Because Billy Doyle was a drug dealer. He doesn't want to be implicated in drug dealing, does he? So Billy Doyle would say he didn't know about Frykowski dealing drugs. Yeah, well, that was all I really had to read out for this one. So I might as well end it and go to an after stream. And I don't have to worry about the long silences. Yeah, that's it. They'd all be fucking live streaming it to Instagram or whatever, wouldn't they? Idiots. Yeah, she said that Linda was inside the house. And she was in there to give her the other knife when she lost her knife. I know, but she was going in to demand her money. It was her money that they had fucking ripped off. She was angry with Frykowski. Frykowski had fucking ripped off her money. She was going to go in there to threaten him with a knife. Yeah. What's BH? Also, the deal burned by Linda could be anyone in BH. What's BH? Yeah. They all changed their clothes. They all say they threw their dark clothing out the window in the car on the way. She did change her clothes. They all wore dark clothing and they all threw their clothes out the window on the way away from the crime scene. And none of them had that much blood on them. You would be surprised how little blood you actually would get on you. The people who moved the bodies, though, must have been fucking covered in it. Yeah. The LA Free Press. Yeah, people say that, but no one's ever been able to come up with the article. And I've got that PDF that's supposed to be all the LA Free Press articles about the Manson family, and there's no thing from Dennis Hopper saying that. Yeah, they'd fall into... Yeah. This is the quote that everyone says, right? But where is the article? We can find the one where Sharon Tate said that Joe Sebring was dating a 15-year-old in French, right? Why can't we find that Dennis Hopper one? Yeah. Yeah, well, I've always wondered why Tex has never changed his story on Linda over the years. So I think he must have just really loved her. And by the sound of the guy who does the Yana the Witch article, the guy who wrote that Yana the Witch article, he talks about how magical she seemed and how that he seemed to bewitch her somehow. Bewitch him somehow, you know. She like, he talks about her looking magical, and when she jumped into the air and all this sort of stuff, you know, he talks about her like really. I think men really fell for her hard. Yeah. Yeah, I will. When it's edited tomorrow, I will. Yeah, I've just read out the bit where Bugliosi cross-examined her about what she said. Yeah, we'll come back up tomorrow. And then on Saturday night, I'll be reading out. What's her name? His name. The stuff about Caruso and Caballero that backs up basically what was said in the Manson file that I read out. But yeah, I was surprised to hear her talking about it, and she talks about everything. Yeah. Oh, are you in my group, Linda? If you're in my Facebook group, the streams always stay up in my Facebook group. I don't edit them. You just have to scroll through the counter at the beginning and have to put up with all the silences because I don't edit them. But yeah, if you ever want to watch them before they come back up on YouTube, they are in my Facebook group all the time. Yeah. Yeah, that's it. Well, he's pretty crazy, isn't he? Hopper, yeah, apparently. Yeah. Mm. Yeah, that's it. But this is it. She changes it during the penalty phase. She says Linda went in. She said Linda waited outside, but only for about 30 seconds. Then she came in because that was the answer she gave. She said, you didn't ask me how long she stayed outside for. She only stayed outside for about 30 seconds. Then she came in. And she's saying that when they were stood in the living room talking to Frykowski, Linda was stood by his head on of the sofa. So she was in the living room when they were confronting Frykowski. And Linda gave Susan a knife when she lost her other knife. Yeah, she had to go back in to get the blood to write pig on the door. And then she threw the towel back into the house. And it conveniently landed right over J. Sebring's face, even though she wasn't even looking. Yeah. Oh, you're not on Facebook, yeah. Well, it will be up again tomorrow anyway, yeah. I set it to private just while it's being edited. Because, yeah, with the YouTube live streams, you can't edit it for about 12 hours at least. You have to wait until it's processed. And then after you edit it, it has to process again. Yeah. Yeah, well, this is it as well. Frykowski probably thought she was some stupid hippie he could easily burn. And she was a woman as well. And, like, I interviewed Angel, the woman Angel, the friend of Harrigan and Doyle. And she tells you what it was like drug dealing, as you know, like the men didn't even talk about crimes in front of women. They didn't talk about it, you know. So like you can imagine how they treated a girl who was trying to be a drug dealer. They would think that she was above herself or whatever. I think she needed to be taken down a peg or two. And we already know what they did to Doyle, you know, because and also the other thing that Angel said was that she knows the chemist. She knew the chemist that was making the drugs that Doyle would have been distributing, and there was no way they were bad when Doyle distributed them. So like it was either they cut them or the drugs were just never bad. They just did that for some other reason, basically. Yeah. Yeah, I think there's a picture of the towel. It looks like a hand towel from the bathroom, a small towel. It's not like a tea towel. I think it does look like a hand towel. Yeah. So just look at the chat. Yeah, I'll finish this now and we'll go to an after show so we can have a bit more of a laugh then. It's Halloween night, isn't it? Yeah, and I don't like things to go on for much more than an hour. But yeah, thanks for coming to this, everyone. And make sure you subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Yeah. Should try and get a like and subscribe logo up, should I? Who should we have? Susan. Since we were talking about her so much tonight, yeah. Like and subscribe if you haven't already. Oh. Yeah. Yeah, I'll end it now and I'll come back in a minute and do an after show. And we can just chat generally more then. Excellent. Yeah, thanks for coming, everyone. And I'll see you in a minute if you want to come to the after stream. But if not, tune in Saturday for the Sunday night. Sorry, Sunday. I've chosen the bloody night I do it. Sunday night. When I'll be talking about I'll be reading out what she says about her grand jury testimony and how the lawyers Caballero and Caruso treated her. Excellent. Yeah. So I'll see you Saturday. Good night, everyone. And happy Halloween.